Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and today we're going to talk about, we talked about it before, but more psychology in Judaism. And if you haven't seen the show, let me just recap a few minutes of what we're talking about. Many times Judaism, people think of Judaism, I eat a matzah on Passover, or you go to temple once a year, a few times a year, it's a nice bar mitzvah, but what does it really have meaning for me? And many times, and again, I try to address issues that people have talked to me about, and therefore I think it's an issue that most people do have, or a lot of people have, so that's why I'm addressing here on the Jewish View, so more people can see it, and they just don't think that Judaism has any meaning in their life. Many people have gone to Hebrew school, and they've heard about Noah and his ark, the basic Jewish stories, the Exodus, and then when they're bar mitzvah, they're, so to speak, graduate. I don't know if they're graduating, it's just the beginning of life, but they feel they graduated, now they're done, and they've had enough, and now they can go on and do something real, high school and in college, some real intellectual ideas. So that's very important. I just want to bring out, these are major facts, that if it makes me feel so bad that people think that Judaism is childish, well, because they just went to Hebrew school and heard childish stories. I mean, they're true, but all right, like we say, Noah's in his ark. But Judaism has some of the deepest intellectual ideas inside of it. Maybe in the Chumash, and you delve in the Bible, the Gemara, the Talmud. People even really intellectual say Talmudic logic. It's very deep. And if people just say that, and kids say that to me, they don't see anything deep. It's only in their college studies, high school studies, that they find something really fulfilling and deep in their minds. Well, it just really hurts me, because you could really find that in Judaism. But really the point now today, I mean, we've gone through in different shows about Talmudic logic, but I want to bring out really the psychology today, because people take psychology courses, how to be happy, how to be fulfilled. And again, Judaism does have those answers. Again, this is maybe radical news for a lot of people. If you want to be a psychologist, go to college, Psychology 101. You're not going to go and look into the Bible, the Chumash, or the Talmud to find out what's really motivating, or what motivates a person. But it is true. That's what the news here is today. I just want to bring that out and to express this to every person. You can find the deeper ideas in life in the Torah itself. And it's an important point, because people want to be happy, they don't want to get depressed, or they want to be motivated in one reason or the other, but they'll see that Judaism really has the answers to all that. And sometimes, telling the truth, it flies in the face of, we could say, 21st century American culture. That family is very important. I know people, there's many single people today, but again, I feel bad when I see people, or I talk to people who are divorced. It's very traumatic, and that obviously you can be divorced in Judaism. Let me say that up front. But that is the least acceptable form of getting together. There should be marriage counselors. It's the last resort, divorce, and people should try to work together. But marriage is beautiful, to find the mate, to find someone that you live with your whole life. And children in Judaism is the greatest blessing. Again, don't ask, I have a lot of children, and I know they could be a pain in the head, and I know they cost a lot of money. I know people's issues with that. But ultimately, you work for what you want. Again, we're just talking about college. So an 18-year-old dropout could say, hey, I don't want to go to college, and you guys have to go to school, and I'm just playing around, playing basketball, and I'm having a good time. And in college, you guys are working and cramming for tests and finals and papers and this and labs, and I'm having a good time. Well, we know the answer to that, hopefully, that ultimately you go to college. Yes, it is a lot more work than just hanging around, but ultimately you'll have a better life, that you'll have a better degree, you'll have a degree, you'll have a better job, if you go to college. So we know that you work. I mean, that's just natural. If you want something, you work for it. And that's what has to be the issue. If you want to grow, you're going to have to put some effort out to it. And so therefore we could say the same thing with Judaism, that if a person wants to have some happiness in life, well, sometimes it takes a little bit of work and it takes a little bit of money to get there. Children would be one great example. And marriage also. On one hand, listen, let's be realistic and let's be honest. On one hand, I do say it's the greatest blessing, but it is working with somebody, living with somebody, differences. Nobody marries somebody 100% like themselves. There's no such a thing. You're unique and the other person unique. Obviously, you found a lot of things that you're compatible with. You just don't go eeny, meeny, miny, mo and marry somebody. On the other hand, listen, like I say, we have to be honest. There's going to be friction. But hopefully you work it out. And again, it is work. It is trying to bear, something that maybe you don't like. It's not just everything you like you have to do. You have to give in a little bit, and that's life. But, ultimately the end product is incredible. You have a family, you have children, and it's good fruit for the world over here. That you have the best fruit is not just money, it's just children, good human beings that are brought into the world. And that is, like I say, it flies into the face of a lot of what people think or feel, or it's the common culture today in the United States in the 21st century. But, we're here to tell the Jewish view, and that is the Jewish view. Ultimately, like I said, to find true happiness, what is really going to make you happy. And that's, like I say, psychology and Judaism. Judaism ultimately tells you what's going to get you fulfilled in life. And again, we have to accept that Judaism doesn't always say what the greater, what's happening in the United States is like 100%, because really many people are depressed. Many people are depressed. There's many suicides. There's alcoholism. The people are on drugs, legal or illegal drugs. And why are they doing all this? Just to keep themselves happy. And we're just saying you really don't need all these different artificial factors to keep you happy. That if you lead a good life, and according to the dictates of Torah, and we're talking really about non-Jews also, because family and life is for non-Jews. Certain things, like I say, eating a matzah on Passover, all right, that's something very Jewish. But on the other hand, what we're talking about right now about a family life is good for every person, not just the Jewish people, to say the least. So Judaism has many things that it does teach, obviously, to Jewish people. They want to instruct Jewish people. But on the other hand, they're also teaching how non-Jews should live. I mean, it's not just parochial. We always talk about it very briefly, that Jewish people are in the world to be teachers, not to be exclusive and beyond everybody, to interact into the world and to work with the world and teach the world. It's one of the deeper ideas why the Jewish people were sent into exile. The basic idea that Jewish people were all in Israel 2,000 years ago. There was a temple. They all lived there. The Romans came in, destroyed the temple, and sent everybody flying. I mean, they went to Babylonia, whatever, for 2,000 years, not to recap 2,000 years of history. But bottom line, what we have today in the 21st century is Jewish people all over the world. So you could say it's a punishment. You're not in Israel. You're not in your homeland. That's one way to look at it. And the better way is what I'm trying to bring out now, is they're here to interact with the world, to bring what Judaism has to say and the good news that Judaism has, and to teach other people. And we could just give a few examples of really, even though it's a subject in its own right, just a few examples how Jewish people and Judaism has interacted with the rest of the world and has made effects in the world. And one of them is charity. That you can't just say, hey, I worked, I eat, you don't work, you starve. And that was it was a philosophy of many people's, but Judaism says, well, you say in Yiddish, never, per person, per soul. Some people don't work, they can't work, but you have to help them out. You should have people work as much as they can. That's really another issue, really, that Judaism teaches. You have to work. You have to do something in the world. People who sit around and just collect off the community, that's not fulfilling. That's not a meaning in life, and maybe you can get by that way. And like again, the kid who's a dropout, I do nothing and you have to work, but ultimately the joke's on them, because if you don't do anything, you don't achieve, then you don't find meaning in life. All it leads to is depression. It's not the right way for a human being to live. So that's one of certain things that Judaism does teach. Here's the different things like charity, and it has incorporated in the world around us many things. You don't call them Jewish, so to speak, but just someone gives to the American Heart Foundation, which is a good foundation, and say, well, I'm being Jewish. But where did they learn to say, hey, we have to find cure for diseases? You have money, then help other people out also with your time, and like we said, with your money, that we want to better the world, and can't just the way it is the way it is. It's something that we have to look forward to making the world better. And the truth of the matter is, that's what I was trying to say, that it's not just, okay, now as Rabbi, you're oppressing me, you're telling me to give my money to whatever charity you want. That's not the issue. There's so many good causes out there, but just the bottom line is to help other people. Oh man, you're telling me to use my time when I want to watch the TV, and you're telling me to give my money away. So on one hand, it's a little difficult. On the other hand, trying to bring out is that through putting your effort out, and maybe it's not so nice, give away your money, I could spend it for something else. On the other hand, helping people in whichever way you do. If you don't have money, you can obviously help people out with your hands, to help people, unfortunate people. Every almost institution needs volunteers and are begging for volunteers to help them. But that will, in the end, fulfill you more than anything else. And so many people have said that their hobbies are the helping people. That's what really brings meaning in their life. They're not being paid for it. You think, well, if I get paid for it, that really is something special in my life. But it's the outside interest, the outside helping, that really makes them feel good about what they do and what their purpose in life is. So again, these are all very Judaic ideas. Like I said, many have been incorporated in the world around us. Like I said, every institution wants their volunteers, and heaven knows they're all asking for money, and they need the money, and that's very important. But where did they come from? It's all Judaism. Judaism actually could tell a person really what they're made out of and what's really, really important to them. Again, I just want to compare and contrast, because it is important what we're saying. It's not just, okay, some nice ideas. That's a little bit different than what the American culture we live in. American culture says me generation, fulfill my needs, what's making me happy. It's everything's me and me and me and me. And that's what we're taught, and I'm trying to just change it a little bit from that different outlook. That's not only about yourself. And on the contrary, you really will get me and me. You'll feel fulfilled and nurtured when you help somebody else out. So again, a little bit it flies into today's culture, what everything is, is for inward. Where am I going to find help? I don't feel it in myself. Well, maybe you feel it, give someone else, and you'll feel it in yourself. But again, it's maybe a little bit, illogical. How can I find myself by looking at somebody else? But in any case, that's really the idea behind it. Looking and helping somebody else helps you find your best fulfillment and meaning in life. And that's the psychology. That's where people are, that's very important. And again, I've said this before, and I just many, many times emphasize that that's really what's more important in our society today. Yes, there's new computers coming out, to say the least, we know, and fine, nothing wrong with it. I'm not cutting that down. Fine, the technology is great. But on the other hand, is that what we really need in today's society? That's what it's so important to have a better computer, better high HD television, or on and on with all the technological devices. Or else, really what's more important is finding in themselves happiness, not just looking at a device and a video game or whatever, etc., etc. That people, they're engaged in, people don't talk to each other. They're always looking on their phones. And that's a very important point in Judaism too. That it's something that's very Jewish, but I think you can take it, the idea behind it, for everything else. But when you pray, and you can, let me emphasize, pray by yourself in your room and in your house. So I'm not saying you can't, because I just said you can. On the other hand, it's very, very important, the synagogue or the temple, to join with other people. And 10 people make a minyan, make a quorum. So again, right now we're not talking about the spirituality of it, which we can get into it at a different time. Right now, it's just, like I say, the psychology of it. That you grow together, they're forcing you to be with other, not forcing, no one has to, but just saying, oh, well, I want to do what Judaism says. Well, then I should go to the temple, and I should interact with other people. Well, that's very beautiful. You understand, besides, like, again, the spirituality of it and the Judaic rites with this, where you read the Torah only if you have 10 people, fine. But it's just, what else is happening there? You're talking to other people, you're mixing with other people, intermingling with and making conversation with other people. You're asking what they need, and maybe someone needs help. I know in my congregation, for example, and it was just an offshoot, but I think it's so very beautiful, people became friends. I said, well, where are you going, tonight? Oh, I'm going with that friend. Well, where did you meet? You met in my synagogue, you met in my temple. So they find friends. I mean, I didn't put them together, but just the idea, you're going to be with other people. Hey, you need something? Maybe I have a job for you. I could use a job. I'll give you the job. So just being intermingling with people, social life. And people don't have such a social life today. And they don't have so many friends. And they're all looking on their machines and their phones. And they're trying to tune in that way. And that's really a major problem. This is what I'm trying to bring out. It's not just a simple little thing. Oh, I got a better device. Now I could talk to my device even more. Well, fine, let there be better devices. But that's what's really needed. Or maybe you need a friend or two to hang around with and talk to them, face to face, without looking on a machine that you need to talk to. So I think that's really, I just think, when in my mind, that's the most important part of what's needed today. It's not a newest computer, and it's, and all kinds of inventions that come out. It's just that the psychology of people, that's what I'm saying, are working with other people, and that's just not today. People don't say you have to work with people. That you just learn by yourself, you read by yourself, you take a test by yourself, and you don't need anybody else. You can watch, the TV and online. I know many schools have that online. You don't need to interact humanly with anybody else. But machines can take a lot of jobs away, and they say in the future they are going to take a lot more jobs away from people. But then, well, then people feel, well, they just took my job away from me. I'm depressed. Now a machine could do it. You don't need me. Oh, you need a machine. You don't need me. And that's what I'm saying. I think that's a little bit of an ill of society also. Your work is, could be very fulfilling, but you as a human being are beyond what you work for. You have friends, you have family, you have, you're needed in other ways, because other times people do need people. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And I know, they're talking about many jobs are going to be eliminated with machines. They have already had so many jobs that are eliminated with machinery and computers. On the other hand, people need people. And that's always going to be, and I don't care what, I don't know the future in 100 years, what kind of computers are going to be, what kind of machines are going to be, but people need people. And that's very, very important, and we're losing that today, and that's something that the human mind is. That's why I think people, one of the reasons, they're depressed. They don't have other people, they're not needed, and they just have to look inside of themselves, and how happy can you be just for yourself? We're not wired for that. We're wired to be with other people. I say we're wired to be married. We're wired to have children. We're wired to have friends. We're wired to interact with other people and help them. That's why couldn't God made the world? He couldn't make everybody rich? Well, what's wrong? He doesn't have enough money for everybody? So it's an interesting question. I mean, if you see God made the world and you say he's good, why are there poor people in the world? And maybe that's exactly your answer. Maybe that's the answer for yourself, because maybe that's you have more, will be able to help that person out. Doesn't want that person just to be poor and lonely. But as he says, well, now you could do something about it. If everybody's rich, then you're not needed to give charity. You can't help. Everybody is happy. Who needs you? But since there are unhappy people, there are needy people, to say the very least, and there are a lot. I mean, people shouldn't kid themselves. You know, I'm a rabbi, maybe I know a little bit more how people have needs, but if you just, again, scratch the surface, there's a lot of need out there. There's a lot of voluntary work that has to be done. And again, whatever field you want. I'm not telling you where to go and what to do, but it doesn't take too much to look around to find something that you would feel that there's a need for in whatever ways. And really, you can probably have and I know that there's an entire list of different ways that you can help people, but that's important. That's an important part of a human being, because you're not helping them, you know, just help them, give money to them. You're doing yourself the biggest favor. Just again, a little bit of a Talmud. Of course, I'm a rabbi, I got to bring in the Talmud. It says more than the rich man, or the balabas, the rich man does for the poor person. Is it right? Because he's helping him out. He gave him a few dollars, a sandwich, whatever he gave him. The poor person does for the rich man. It's incredible. Listen to that Talmud again. The poor person does more to the rich man than the rich man does for poor man. Got himself a sandwich. So good, you got yourself a sandwich. You gave yourself a sandwich, a few dollars, you know, to keep going. In a way, kind of big deal. But what the poor person does for, I mean, it is a big mitzvah. I'm not saying not, of course. But on the other hand, the poor person gives the rich person even more. He gives them his whole psychological makeup. He helps somebody out. He feels good about himself. He did a commandment for God, and he just did with God. He got a purpose in the world. Why did you have money? So you could just go on vacations? Or did you have just poor people in the world? Don't you feel fulfilled and have more meaning when you help somebody out? So you understand, just from one line from the Gemara, from the Talmud, you understand how deep everything could be and is. And again, that's what I'm trying to say. Call it psychology, give it a fancy word, psychological people. But in any case, that's really the problem that I think people face more than they need the bigger computer that just came out, a nicer camera that came out, or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. We all know. Fine, and again, not knocking things. I'm not going backwards in time to the 19th century. But fine, everything is more convenient. But why is it convenient? It's convenient because you now have more time to do something more in your life. You don't have to scrub the clothes and spend an hour, whatever they did 100 years ago. You hit a button and the clothes are done. Well, now what are you going to do with your time? Now you can have more meaning. What's the meaning? Just to washing clothes and drying clothes and hanging up clothes. Now you could do something more important in your life. But people, you obviously have all the conveniences, but now what do I do with myself? And I'm still not happy. So this is exactly where the Torah and Judaism comes in to find what a person is. And it's interesting that the giving is so important. I'll give you another quote, of course. I'm a rabbi, I have to quote the Talmud. That it says more than that the calf wants to nurse, wants to eat. Of course, the calf wants to eat. It's a natural function. The cow wants more to give. I mean, this is a very incredible idea. I mean, this is why I say to the kids in school, kids, okay, let's learn. You come in, come on, we're ready to learn. The teacher wants to impart more knowledge to the child, more than the child wants to take. So that would be the general description. But what I'm trying to bring it out here, that when you want to give, you're going to feel more about feeling to give than the person wants to take. Because the person may say, okay, I have a little and good enough. And you say, no, I want to give. I want to help that person out. It's the biggest fulfillment and it's the biggest joy in the world of helping people out. And it's more, the people who do it understand, and the people who don't, you should try it. And that's the biggest thrill for people. And the people have told me that I felt so good when I helped somebody else out, more than anything else. And that would be more of a fulfillment, what people are maybe really looking for. It's what we're trying to say here, and to sum up in the last few minutes, is just saying that Judaism helps people over these humps. Why are people depressed? Why aren't they happy? They're always looking happy, happy, happy. They can go on vacation, but are you truly happy? People who are truly happy are there, that they see a meaning and a purpose in their life, and they see that there's a fulfillment of helping other people and giving out for other people and putting themselves out for other people or other things, or helping even just even directly helping the community, making a garden for people. You don't say directly helping people. There's so much need that people could find, around the community. Like I said, it could take a whole list. Doesn't take too much, and there's so many different ways. So I don't want to say one way, because every person is different. You have to find it in yourself to see how much, where you want to help out. There's so much need. You can't do everything, to say the least, but you actually obviously can find some niche, because there's so many issues in our community and in Jewish life that's so important. So again, just to repeat and to sum up, is that Judaism is telling a person that to find true meaning in life, find true happiness in life, that look for the Judaism charity and helping people is such an integral part of Judaism. That is, Hillel said it, that to help another person out. This is the whole reason for Torah, the whole klal, which means the whole principle in the Torah, is just helping somebody out. And that's what I try to have you understand what that means. And for myself also, you talk to yourself, you have to help even more and more, to help other people, to do for other people. And even though, like I said, technology is important, the Jewish rituals are important. I'm not trying to negate anything here. On the other hand, just to emphasize, there's a different component in life which maybe you don't learn in school, and maybe no one tells you. Just to say, get a good job and make money and go on vacation. That's what the commercials are telling you. On the other hand, we're here to tell you that you'll find truly happiness in helping other people, the true fulfillment in life. Thank you very much.